Welcome to Showdown. I'm Mark Kaysen, and this is Thursday, and that is May 23rd. What a nice day this was. This afternoon, a number of people at our faculty all got together out at Top Golf. But wait a second, before you get too carried away, it wasn't Top Golf in Chesterfield. It was Top Golf down in the city, right off of Showdown. And what a nice place it was. And on top of the fact that it's nice, and everybody said that it looks just like Top Golf in Chesterfield, which I've never been to, partly because I don't play golf and partly because I just have never gone. But they say it looks identical inside. But one thing I know that they don't have out in Chesterfield is a view of the city skyline, which includes, of course, the arch. And I mean to tell you, it looked great. If you don't play golf, if you don't have friends there from your faculty, I don't know what you would do, but that's another story. You'll have to decide that. But for me, it was just a nice afternoon, and I came wandering into the studio so easily, so quietly, so much on time. The 2 minutes to go. That's like an eternity over here, you know? Okay, so that was over on the other side of town. But let me talk to you for a second about St. Charles. Now, you would think probably the same city, close enough, but apparently it's an altogether different world. And beyond what I would describe as being a different world, what's going on out there is just not good. If you live in St. Charles, you've got a problem. And it's not the cicadas, and it's not the usual thing that you would expect to be a problem. It's unfortunately this one. St. Charles is shutting down libraries. Now, we know that Wentzville is banning books, and we know that they're very concerned about anything black out in Wentzville. And although they're not saying it this way out in St. Charles, I suspect it's the same issue. How do we get rid of blackness? Now, we know that Francis Howell made the first effort to wipe out blackness. DEI fears at their school. People worried that some young person, some young white person might hear that there was slavery, that there was racism, and what would happen is that they would feel uncomfortable. And it's interesting. I've had some great conversations with my students about white people feeling uncomfortable, and they said the right thing, which was, wait a minute, how about how uncomfortable we are about what's happened since 1619? Oh, well, I guess they're not supposed to worry about that or some such thing. In any event, there's just no question that out in St. Charles, they're getting ready to shut down libraries. The headline in the Post today was St. Charles residents are blindsided by this shutdown of libraries. And I know the other day we had Senator Williams on the air, and he was talking about the way in which the state has avoided taking back money from the libraries, and that's a nice thing. But unfortunately, you've got these local people who think, I guess this is the Jim Crow era or some such thing. I'm not sure what that is, but they want to shut down libraries because there's a fear that there might be books in there that relate to black people, that black people, I don't know, maybe they might be maybe some black people might be attracted to the library and they're afraid of that. I don't know what it is. I really can't tell you, because why would you be shutting down libraries? And we know that around the country, there have been these efforts to shut down libraries where the issue is all about black. And I know people don't want to hear it this way. You know, you talk to white people, they don't want to hear this conversation. They don't want to hear you saying, oh, this is anti-blackness. No, they don't want to hear that. And they jump up and down and swear that that's not what it's about. But when you look at the books that are banned, it becomes very difficult to come to any other conclusion. Let me give you an example. Hank Aaron and Roberto Clemente, two great baseball players, really fabulous stars. Clemente was the first black player for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And Hank Aaron, I'm not sure if he was the first. There may have been someone before him. I don't know. But I can say this, that Hank Aaron hit over 714 home runs. And the reason I say 714 is because we all know that is Babe Ruth, hit 714. I think it's 746 for Hank Aaron. But whatever the exact number is, 46, 44, it's more than Babe Ruth. And believe me, this is America. And when Hank Aaron began to cross the line above Babe Ruth, white people came after him and others related to him in a way that was unmistakable. They did not like a black man beating Babe Ruth. Now, come on. Is that really the issue here? But it is. It just is. The books about two black baseball players were banned in Florida. Clemente, who hit 300 lifetime, phenomenal, and had 3,000 hits. His last hit was the 3,000th before he ran off and got himself killed trying to save people in Puerto Rico, people that had been harmed in an earthquake. And honestly, you want to ban those kind of books? You know, there's an award in baseball every year, the Roberto Clemente Award, for people who serve others, because that's how Clemente died, of course. One of the greatest baseball players ever. And, you know, the problem is Florida wanted to ban the two books. Now, I'm sure that they could have come up with an excuse. I have no doubt about that. As an example, you know, in the last few days, you had Donald Trump proclaiming that the beginning of his administration would be the unified Reich. And of course, he had an excuse. He didn't do it. He didn't know about it. He couldn't be held responsible. It was some low-level staffer that nobody had ever seen before. He just sort of wandered into whatever the name of that company of his is, and wandered in, pushed a few buttons, and got Donald in trouble. I mean, they didn't even claim that this was hacked from China or Russia or something like that. I mean, that they could have said, and not that anybody would have believed it, but they could have said that, and it wouldn't have had the same impact as claiming that it was some guy who happened to wander into his office, hunt and pecked a few key letters on the computer and pushed a button. Come on. You believe that? And not to mention the fact it's not the first time that Donald has told that story. So that's the other point. This is an old Donald story. These people just did it. It wasn't him. Well, the same thing goes for banning Clemente and Aaron. They didn't do it. They don't know who did it. If they did it, they didn't mean it. And if they did it, they don't know why. And it wasn't a problem. And the books weren't really banned and all these different things. And of course, the answer is the books were banned. And they were banned because Clemente and Aaron were black. Now, you know that a lot of times when they say they're banning these books, they say sexual material out of control. We have to protect our kids from sexual material. I mean, the kids are watching television night and day. Have you seen what's on television? You think there's a problem with kids being exposed to sexual material in a Hank Aaron and Roberto Clemente book? Is that really, you want to try to make that argument? So, yeah, that's one point. The other point is, have you heard the music that kids listen to? I guess you have no idea what's going on. And you think you're going to ban a couple of books like Toni Morrison? You're going to ban in Wentzville Toni Morrison's Blue Eye? And by doing that, you're going to save your children who are being exposed nightly to the most unbelievable language, at least in comparison to what we grew up with, 50 years ago. Come on. Now, I never worried about it. We heard the language 50 years ago. It wasn't on television, but we heard it. We knew what it was. There was something called the free speech movement. And eventually, the people who didn't like the free speech movement began to call it the filthy speech movement. And that's when Lenny Bruce and others went to jail. A horrible time in our history, but, maybe understandable. It was coming out of the 50s and people were shocked. I don't think anybody's shocked today by anything. And I suspect that the kids are hearing everything at home anyway. I'm not even talking about the television set. I'm talking about their parents. But beyond that, it's not going to hurt anybody. It really won't. And, when it comes to profanity or inappropriate sexual comments, let me say this, especially when it comes to profanity. I mean, I've got plenty to say, but you'll never hear it. First of all, you'll never hear it on the radio, television, or anywhere. You'll just never hear it. If I get in front of a microphone, I am just not going to use that language. I hear people using it. So do you. I hear them on TV. I hear them right here on the microphones. I cringe when I hear it. But the truth is, people have gotten used to it in 2024. So how we've come around to wanting to ban books in libraries, and then finally, when you get too much pushback on banning the books, then St. Charles comes along and says, let's just shut them down. Let's just shut the libraries down. And then you end up with this business in the Post-Dispatch about being blindsided. I don't know how you're blindsided. I really don't. The Post better rewrite that one. Everybody knew this was coming. There was talk, and it was written about in the Post a month ago, 2 months ago, about efforts to shut down the libraries. Originally, it was thought that the people in Jeff City would cut the funding, and then everybody could go wink, wink, and then shut down the libraries. We weren't thinking about black people. None of that. So here we are. And now St. Charles has begun shutting libraries. And now the Post says everybody's blindsided. I don't think so. And the other thing that the Post didn't say, which is what I am saying, is, believe me, it's all about black. Black, black, black. We had something called Jim Crow And honestly, that was in 1876 that started, which it started because Rutherford B. Hayes, who beat Samuel Tilden, not really. Samuel Tilden won by 1 million votes, which was big in that election. However, the Electoral College came into play, and it was like a tie. So it had to go to the House of Representatives. And in the House of Representatives, there was a discussion. What will you do that would encourage us to make you the president? Samuel Tilden said, I'll be a good president. And Rutherford B. Hayes said, I will remove all of the troops from the South, troops which after the Civil War were protecting black people's rights. I'll move them out, and you can do whatever you want. Have at it. And so the House of Representatives, they all looked at each other and they said, wow, how did we get this deal? We can do a real number on this one. And that's what they did. Rutherford B. Hayes came in. The Congress and the local states imposed laws that weren't really reversed until Earl Warren showed up in 1954. So, 1876 to 1954, we white people did some really great damage. We really kicked some people's butts, a lot of really nice lynching. I mean, white people really showed their attitude towards the black population in the wake of the Civil War. Really good work. So here we are, 2024. That's 70 years past Brown versus Board of Education. And the first thing that happened a couple years ago is that Youngkin, whatever Youngkin's first name was, can't even think of it now, but it's all right. Governor Youngkin in Virginia, he won his race by using race. He said, we got to stop critical race theory right now. I don't think he said DEI directly, but it was all critical race theory. We're going to stop this stuff. It's out of control. Our kids are coming home feeling horrible because of all this blackness. Got to stop it. And guess what? Glenn Youngkin, walked into the office in Virginia easily, beat Terry McAuliffe, who certainly should have won that race. A lot of people thought he would easily win it, and that didn't happen. And that was because Glenn Youngkin did a great job of reinvigorating the idea of Willie Horton, which, of course, did a great job for George Bush. That's George H.W. Bush against Michael Dukakis way back then. So we know it works. White people respond very well to, they call them tropes and various dog whistles and so forth. But the truth is, it's just plain out and out. We don't like black people, and that works. Here we are closing libraries down in St. Charles, and it's all part of this. It's the same movement. This is a great movement. We had the civil rights movement. Now I don't know what to call it, but call it the Willie Horton movement if you want. That would be a good one. But in any event, it's being used right now very effectively. It's really important because what it's doing, it's showing us how white people think in 2024. And they think the same way that they did. They're pretty tough. When it comes to black people, they're not playing. They don't have Rutherford B. Hayes anymore, so, well, this is just what they have to do until they can get the unified Reich. Now, I really like that, too, and I've been talking to people about the fact that all these other presidents had all these great things to say about their administrations. And I did this the other day, but, be patient. First, we had FDR, very excellent New Deal, that was easy. Even before FDR, we had, what's his name? Woodrow Wilson, who was a racist. I mean, and believe me, everybody says Woodrow Wilson was a racist. That's no question about that one. And, I can't even think some new freedom thing that he announced for his. And you'll remember, of course, that under Woodrow Wilson, the idea was that we would end would end World War I in order to save the world for democracy. We're going to protect democracy. And, so we've had some great ones. We had certainly Lyndon Johnson's Great Society. I mean, that was, really good stuff. And now here we are, the unified Reich. Leave it to Trump to come up with words that really tell us what he thinks American history for the future ought to be. And it's not pretty. Not at all. He's not going to be elected. But, here's the thing. He's told you that he admires Adolf Hitler. Now, after he says it, then he says, no, it wasn't me. It was somebody else. They said it. They did it. Like Sam Alito. I didn't put that flag up there. That was my wife. She did it. The wife did it routine. Well, Trump can't do that. Oh, well, he could actually. He could say his wife's a foreigner and deport her and all kinds of things. But no, he's not doing that. What he's doing instead is just proclaiming his administration to be the unified Reich and then saying, I didn't do it. And if I did it, I didn't mean it. And anyway, someone else did it. And I don't even know who it was. Someone walked into my office without even having a key, knew how to get into my computer. It's not me. I don't know. Maybe my wife did it. But at any rate, yeah, the unified Reich. That's what's going on in St. Charles. And that's where we are. Hard to believe, but that's where we are. By the way, got a phone number you can call anytime if you want to talk on the show with me. You won't be on the screen. You'll just be on the phone. And that phone is connected right now. And the phone number is 314-471-1968. 471-1968. So you can call that number and you can talk to me, maybe about the unified Reich. Or, you could talk about cicadas. You could do that too. Cicadas are, they're making a lot of noise out there. In fact, they're making so much noise that when I was first hearing it, I thought, maybe I need to go to the ear doctor or something. What's happening to my ears? But then I realized pretty quickly it was the cicadas. So yeah, they're okay. It's sort of a big cicada time. And I think that has something to do as well with climate change. I know it's not happening. There's no climate change. And yeah, there's nothing we can do. And it's not our fault. And if we did it, it's not our fault anyway. And so, yeah, but the cicadas are okay. They don't bother you. Once you know that that's what it is, I think you pretty much have it under control. So, in the last few days, don't ask me how this happened, but the St. Louis Cardinals won 3 games from the Baltimore Orioles. Now, the reason I bring that up really has to do with politics in a minute. You'll hear why. In fact, you'll say, Kaysen, how did you make this connection? But that's all right. I could do what I want, just sitting in front of a microphone. Anyway, here we are. We won 3 games against a team that, even with the 3 losses, has a fabulous record in the American League. So, those wins against Baltimore are absolutely unexplainable, except to say that my friend Jim Berger has always explained that you don't need to figure it out, because you just need to know that the baseball gods are at work. And apparently that's it, because there's no reason we should have won 3 games against Baltimore. And in fact, if you watched or listened to the games, you knew that, one of the games, they made errors. That is, Baltimore made errors everywhere. And Baltimore doesn't play like that, but they did here. So I guess it was the baseball gods at work, and they just wanted this to end this way, because clearly we played against Miami, the worst team in baseball, at least according to the record. I mean, they haven't won a thing. And yet Miami was able to win against us, no problem. And then we turn around and sweep 3 games against Baltimore. How is that possible? Well, it's the beauty of baseball, and surely it's the baseball gods. But let me add to this. You're going to love this connection. Let me add the name Ty Cobb. Now, Ty Cobb was a great baseball player, but not for the Cardinals, of course. And he was sort of a rotten guy. Everybody hated him. But Ty Cobb is a name that you would recognize perhaps from baseball, but that's not why I'm bringing this up at all. I just did what I felt like. But Ty Cobb, but not the baseball Ty Cobb. This is Ty Cobb, who was the lawyer for Donald Trump some years back. And Ty Cobb was also said to be somewhat irascible. But in any event, this was a different Ty Cobb, but he supported Trump. He did. He supported him. He defended him legally. And then he became tired of the whole thing and sickened by it. And so he sort of switched gears, but I'm not saying that he became liberal, not that, but certainly he recognized that the United States does not want Donald Trump if it wants democracy. And, a lot of people realize this, and we get a lot of discussion about it. And in fact, Joe Biden has used this to a great effect in winning elections in different places in between the presidential years, and explained that, yeah, we have to defend democracy. And the danger is that Donald Trump could take democracy down if we allowed him to become president again. And everybody explains that now he knows how things work, and he knows some of the levers. He can put some people in place, and he can make democracy go away. And I think that is true. I think he is certainly capable of that. And I think he has told us that that's what he wants to do. He's told us that he would become a dictator on day one. And then he said, well, I might have said it, but if I did, I didn't mean it, all that stuff. And anyway, Ty Cobb said, really insightful, that Aileen Cannon, the judge in the Florida Mar-a-Lago case, the documents that Donald didn't really steal. And anyway, even if he did, he was dreaming that he had declassified the documents. So if he had that dream, then you could let him do it, because that's how the Constitution works. If you check Article 2, Section 2, and then there's a little special space underneath there. It's got a little A dot after the A. And the only thing is, it was written with disappearing ink. So a lot of people don't realize what it meant. But honestly, it meant that if Donald, 200 years later, had a dream about declassifying some documents, then they would automatically be declassified. And all you have to do is read the disappearing ink in the Constitution, and you'll know that it was right there. Article 2, Section 2, it's right below that. So you can go take a look. Sometimes it shows up, not maybe very well, maybe not well enough to read, but it's there. Donald will tell you all about it. Anyway, Ty Cobb, realizing what's going on in Florida, decided to speak up in a way that a lot of people have been afraid to say, and they should say it. And that is that Aileen Cannon is doing everything necessary to delay this case in the hopes that Donald Trump will be president and that she'll, I guess, get some kind of a deal. Now, she's already got a deal. She's on the federal bench for a life, but it doesn't matter. She's already been excoriated. That's the word they use. I really like that. By the 11th district for two things that she's done that were way over the line. And now here's the third one, which is sort of a combination of things. First of all, delaying the question of a mistrial earlier, about a month ago, and just giving Donald a heads up with a wink that if he brings the question of a mistrial back to the court, and if he does that after the jury has been impaneled, then she could just turn around and say, case dismissed, and then it would be over, because you'd have double jeopardy applying, and that would be the end of it. So you've got Ty Cobb saying, some not so nice things about Aileen Cannon's IQ. Saying, something, it wasn't nice. I didn't memorize it. It's not necessary. I didn't write it down either, because I didn't want to necessarily even say it. But I mean, I will tell you that that's what he said, that her IQ isn't too good, or if that's not the issue, then she's just plain in Donald's pocket, which is what I've said, and just trying to make sure that she does everything necessary for Donald in order to make sure that this case never comes into the courtroom before a jury. Now, let's add one more thing to this. Judge Burl Howe. He has gotten involved in this thing because he was originally telling the FBI to go and get the documents and so forth. So that he was the judge for all of that. And he's found that there are more documents in Mar-a-Lago, this time in Donald's bedroom. And the point is, Donald has been told repeatedly, number one, give us the documents. Number two, now we're not just asking for them, we're subpoenaing the documents. Number three, We've got the FBI coming in to search your place to get the documents. And we realize, Donald, that you're hiding them. And you might hide some of them, but a whole bunch of them did show up and are now being held down in southern Florida. And they're trying to work out some kind of a deal to have a trial. But it's sort of impossible because this judge has a hearing on everything. For example, lawyer comes into the courtroom and his shoe or her shoe, probably his shoe, is untied. Yeah, woman probably be wearing heels. But anyway, the guy's got an untied shoe, and so they have to have a hearing to decide whether it's a problem for lawyers to be in the court with their shoes untied. Now, you know I'm playing, but look, that's what's going on. There's a hearing for everything. Things that should never go to a hearing are being discussed in a judicial hearing. And then there's another hearing. And then there's another one. And then there's another one. And in fact, there's so many hearings that Aileen Cannon said, I can't get this thing before a jury. We just don't have any time. We're too busy holding these hearings. So we're just going to cancel or postpone this trial indefinitely. And that'll be okay. And we'll just keep having our hearings until Donald is either elected or until Vladimir Putin tells us what to do. So that's what's happening there. And Ty Cobb called it all out very clearly, specified all the problems, and here we are. So at 4:37 in the afternoon on a very nice, quiet day in the United States of America, because the trial's on hold. You know, the current trial, Judge Merchan's trial's on hold until after Memorial Day. So, you know, we can just relax because there's really nothing going on in the I'm sorry. I shouldn't be saying that. Sort of like Dr. Strangelove, you know, if you remember when he kept raising his hand to Heil Hitler. Yeah, I keep wanting to say the Third Reich, but really, no. Let's be fair. This is the unified Reich. This is Trump's unified Reich. I love it. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. I wonder what Donald's slogan will be. Don't worry, I haven't made one up, so I can't tell you. All I know is that the unified Reich is coming, at least in Donald's dreams, and we'll talk about some more here in a minute. But first, we're going to think about dinner, because there's some great food just sitting there right down at 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road. And of course, that's at Wenty's. Wenty's is a great restaurant. The food is phenomenal. People love the wings. That's what people like. I'm not telling you not to eat them. You know, I just don't eat wings. I don't eat wings and I don't eat pizza. But the pizza's supposed to be great too, I'll tell you. What I eat, though, is the baby back ribs, which are great, and the onion rings. I just love onion rings. I've never had a bad onion ring, but I can tell you right now, Wenty's has excellent onion rings. And they got patty melts, and they got hamburgers and cheeseburgers and salads. Everything. That's Wenty's in Chesterfield Valley. 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road. You can go in and look for Ben. He may even be there. If he is, tell him hi and tell him you just don't have a lot of time for him because you want your baby back ribs or whatever it is you want to eat. Enjoy it at Wendy's. And keep in mind that pretty soon, another Wendy's is coming, and that's in Defiance. So Defiance in Chesterfield, that's Wendy's. Now, if you're thinking about 4506 Hampton, I'm not saying you're thinking about jewelry. You're just dreaming about 4506 Hampton. That number just comes in your head. Well, if it does, that's what you're going to find there. Jewels on Hampton. And it's a great place to buy jewelry that already exists. They've got it on the shelves in the cases that are filled with jewelry. Lots of great items there for you to buy at great prices. But beyond that, they buy and sell coins and jewelry at the best prices. I know that because Al tells me, and Al's a very honest man. Truly, he is. And a very nice man. And so is his son, AJ. They're really great. You'll really enjoy them. And that's at 4506 Hampton. And by the way, I am being told, this is an I believe, so let's be careful. I'm being told here on, the net, that Wendy's in Defiance is fully open now. And that may be, but you still need to check. And the reason I say that is because whoever is giving me this important information is writing at the end, I believe. Well, I believe is questionable. Okay, now I'm told that this is according to Google. So according to Google, these people from outer space are telling me that I believe is pretty credible. So I'm going to say it's credible, and that's in Defiance. And if it's not true, then we're going to find out who these Martians are. But right now, that's what I'm told, that you can even go to Defiance and get great food at Wendy's. And also there's an LOL at the end along with it. And so, when you got an LOL on there too, it's tough. Okay? Because LOL, yeah. But I'm also told that, with the LOL and the I believe, that Wendy's will close tonight at 8 o'clock. And if they're closing tonight at 8 o'clock, then my guess is that they're probably open right now at 4:43. So that's my guess. Sounds pretty reasonable. And, nobody, you walk in there, you won't hear one word about the Unified Reich. They'll leave you alone. You can go eat in peace at Wendy's, Defiance, and Chesterfield. So we already know about Jewels on Hampton, and that's a great place. I just want you to know also, they'll fix your watches. So that's a great thing about Jewels on Hampton. And then the other thing is, you could walk in and you could say, I've got some diamonds here. I'd like you to design something for me. They can do that. They're very creative. That's Jewels on Hampton. And that's, on Hampton, 4506 Hampton. Al and AJ. They're great, and you can find them there every single day. Now, here I am back in the studio with another suit on because, I change up my suits here and there, and I get them, of course, from the St. Louis Suit Company in Clayton. The St. Louis Suit Company in Clayton has been there for 29 years. If I tell you the list of all the people that buy their clothes at the St. Louis Suit Company, it would take all night, and we don't have all night. I only have 15 minutes left. So I'll just tell you, a lot of really well-known people shop at the St. Louis Suit Company, and they've been going there for 29 years. So my guess is, sort of like that last guy, I believe. Yeah, I believe that after 29 years, it's highly probable that the St. Louis Suit Company is a great place to buy men's clothing. It's also a great place if you're getting married to get the clothing for the wedding. They're really big on that. And on top of that, let me say, which I mentioned yesterday because I went there last week, and Jay, who's the owner, told me that in 2024, fashions being what they are, that people are going berserk buying just sport coats. So, you can wear a sport coat and you can wear jeans with it, and you can wear Chucks with the jeans, or actually they've got other shoes at the St. Louis Suit Company that look like tennis shoes, but you got to be careful about those, because if you go into your classroom and all the students look at you and go, those aren't real Chucks. See, that's another problem. But if you don't do that, if it's not in the classroom, you're probably safe. It's just clear. Fashions are changed in 2024. It's not like when I first started wearing suits back in, let's add this up here, 67, 68. I started wearing suits. Not from the St. Louis Suit Company. That's more than 29 years ago. But at any rate, styles have changed. But whatever it is that you want, if it's nice men's clothing, it's going to be at the St. Louis Suit Company. They still have suits. Don't listen to me. I'm just being crazy. They do have suits. Absolutely. But they also are selling these sport coats because that apparently is the rage in 2024, along with nice shoes and shirts. They've got really great bargains on overcoats. I was looking at them when I was in there, and the overcoats, I mean, very inexpensive. And I realize it's summer, but that's the way things work. You get your bargains when you're out of season. So you can go in and get an overcoat. What's the difference? You'll sit with it for 3 months. It's not going to hurt you. And then you can have an overcoat from the St. Louis Suit Company, and you can beat out everybody and get nice fashions for low prices. And finally, let me say this, and this is the truth. I'm not Donald Trump. I don't lie. When I was in there over the weekend, a customer came up and he showed the tag to Jay. And Jay's wife was in there too. And the guy said, "Is this true?" And they were looking at the price. And I guess the guy was pretty impressed by the price because it seemed to be something that would fit the guy. In fact, Jay looked at me and he said, "Kaysen, don't worry, it won't fit you." This was a big guy. I'm a little guy. Anyway, the end result was the suit was free. Really. I mean, and the guy had come up to check the price because he just couldn't believe it was free, but it was free. Now, I can't go in any discussion with you right now about why it was free. It was a nice suit. But if you want to check out the suits at the St. Louis Suit Company, I'm not saying that they sell them for free. I'm just telling you one guy found one that had the sign on it that said free. Now, that may be the last guy that ever gets that sign. I'm just telling you. It's on the corner of Central and Forsyth in Clayton, and that is the St. Louis Suit Company. So I got one for you. And this is the opposite of what I really love. I always tell that I love Profiles in Courage. And I love Profiles in Courage partly because I read it when I was 11 years old. And when I read it at 11 years old, so that's 1962, I thought, boy, this is great. I love this book. I understood that these people were standing up for their principles and they were jeopardizing their futures because they had principles. And these were all senators. And Kennedy, who wrote the book, maybe, not exactly, was written probably by Theodore Sorensen. But if Ted Sorensen wrote this book, maybe it was co-authored, although Sorensen doesn't get anything on there. They're not saying by John Kennedy with Ted Sorensen. No, this is just something that everybody knows. If you know things, if you watch Fox, all you know is the weather report, so you don't know. But if you're somebody, if you go to school, college, I know college is no good, but whatever. This book is probably written at least partially by Ted Sorensen, but it says John Kennedy. Either way, it's inspiring. It's all about people with principles. And in fact, the Kennedy family, and probably other people in America as well, just because there's honor given to John Kennedy, who really was a good president. And beyond being a good president, he was a good person. Okay, he cheated on his wife, but so have they all. And that's not the point. The point is, John Kennedy was an inspiring figure. And when he was shot and killed, that changed the country in many ways. And then shortly thereafter, someone killed Martin Luther King, and then turned around shortly thereafter and killed Bobby Kennedy, all three of them, very short period of time. And America has never been the same since. But we do know about people with principles and character who stand up and fight back and refuse to worry about what might harm them if they go against the grain. Now, one name comes to mind right away, and that's Liz Cheney, because we know what she did. She stood up against Trump, and she's continuing to stand up against Trump all the time. And it has destroyed her politically in the Republican Party, but it doesn't matter. The Democrats, of course, love her and respect her and always talk about her as a profiles in courage moment. And that's Cheney, and she has not been afraid. So why do I bring that up today at 4:53? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Nikki Haley has lost her mind. And you notice that I didn't use any profanity because I've already said I don't do that. But there are some good words that go with it that you could use, but I'm just not going to use them. And all I can say is she's lost her mind because suddenly, after explaining that, first of all, Donald Trump should never, ever again get close to the levers of power in the presidency, that he's a dangerous man, that he's not qualified, that he can't even pass a driving test or something like that. And however she figured it out, she came up with this thing that Donald Trump should never, ever be president of the United States again, that he was a very flawed person, dangerous person, unhinged, all the words that are being used for Donald in this era. And so she did stand up all during the primaries, and she stood up and fought back, and she lost, which everybody knew she would, because in the Republican Party today, you can't beat Trump. And she got 20% mostly, which was considered to be pretty good. It's a pretty big number, especially, Trump is so beloved. Yeah. So beloved that they want to be like him. They go to New York and they wear a blue suit and a red tie. And the fact that they look embarrassing, it doesn't bother them because they just love Donald. But anyway, she pointed out this is all horrific in American politics, that the man is just terrible. Don't vote for Donald Trump ever. She said, I'm not doing it, that's for sure. But don't you either, because all we can do with Donald Trump is lose. It's all that's going to happen. Okay. So fast forward, I said yesterday that there was some talk about the possibility that Nikki Haley would turn around and endorse Donald Trump. Well, how could that be? I mean, this is a guy that unhinged, all the things that she said about him. He should never be allowed near the levers of power. This is a dangerous man. So, on May 23rd, what a surprise. She won't be getting the Profiles in Courage Award, that's for sure, because she is now voting for Donald Trump. And why is she voting for Donald Trump? Oh, well, because Joe Biden is a disaster. So let's talk about the kind of disaster that Joe Biden is. You know what people believe? Let me give you an example. This is a Gallup poll. It recently found that 77% of Americans believe that crime is at a 50-year high. 77% of Americans believe that crime is at a 50-year high. Only problem, one minor problem. It's very small. It's tiny. You can't even see it. It's just, you need a microscope to see it. It's so tiny. Just this one little problem. We happen to be at a 50-year low on crime. Not a 50-year high, a 50-year low. But 77%. Look it up. I could have brought it in here and thrown it up on the screen. But, I'm not even going to bother with it because you can go look this one up. I'm telling you, we have a 50-year low in crime. And by the way, whatever crime we do have is all being committed by people who are born in the United States, not by immigrants. Now, you'll find one immigrant who committed a crime, and then you can jump up and down and do backflips. But I can tell you right now, that's not what this is about. Okay. 50% of the people in the United States, over 50 actually, believe we're in a recession. Only problem is the gross domestic product keeps expanding and has now grown year to year 2.8%. It's not a recession, but over 50% of the American people, this is Republicans and Democrats and independents, believe that we're in a recession. Here's one for you. 50%, over 50, believe that unemployment is at a 50-year high. 50%. This is over 50%. It's a great poll. You don't believe all this stuff? Go watch MSNBC. You can go turn it on from Morning Joe this morning, and you can watch Steve Ratner, and he'll tell you all about what people believe in this latest poll that they did. And here's the problem. Just one minor problem. Again, you need a microscope to find it. It's so tiny. The problem is, instead of being at a 50-year high for unemployment, we're at a 50-year low for unemployment. This is the unified Reich. I'm Mark Kaysen, and you're watching Showdown, where we don't worry about the truth. We don't worry about it, but we try to tell you what it is. We try to help you. Don't worry. I am Mark Kaysen. That's true. That's a fact. Good night.